Hey guys, this is Kwei-Yu and I'm going to be creating a tutorial here on eLumen and getting our curriculum update started. So this first video is just going to be opening up eLumen and just informing you guys how to start a new workflow, which is essentially the term for creating a new curriculum project. And so, just kind of getting into the interface itself can be a little bit tricky at first, but it's actually really straightforward. So let's get right into it. Okay, so I'm just here on the MJC homepage and we're under faculty and staff, and I'm just going to click on eLumen. That opens up essentially the login window if you're not already logged in, but I'm already logged in, so we're already here with within the interface. All right, so go through the login process and you should get here. Okay, now the important thing to note when you start off is the whole interface depends on this drop down here. Okay, so right now I'm listed as faculty, and faculty is actually useful if you wanted to look up anything, look up any specific course outlines of record or maybe some program information. So what we would want to do to actually get access to some of the information is to go under curriculum. And right now under my dashboard, there's two tabs here, dashboard and library. Under my dashboard, I've got a whole bunch of stuff listed because I have all these courses that are in the curriculum pipeline right now. And so it's populated by a bunch of stuff. But if you don't have any activity, this will probably be empty. But what we want to do is click on curriculum library. And I want you to think about the library as an actual library. It's like where all of the course outlines are stored, and basically you can have access to anything that you want to look up for reference. Okay, now this isn't actually changing anything, like you're not modifying any of the outlines, or you actually are not really capable of modifying any of them from this tab, but this is just specifically for looking something up as reference. Okay, so think about it as an actual library. You're going in there, you're looking up like different courses, and maybe you're copying something, or you're maybe you could say checking out, but it's not actually doing anything with the official outline of record. So I would say like a say you're just making a copy of it at a copy machine or something, right? So these are kind of set in stone right now, the official registered course outlines. And so we could just do a quick search. So if I wanted to look up like computer graphics courses, I should be able to just enter in computer graphics. Let's see if that does anything. Does it do anything? No. Okay. Well, I guess I'll just manually look up computer graphics applications, and now it's filtered for my specific area. Okay, so if I wanted to look up a specific course, like say for instance computer graphics 225, I could click on it, and up here I have a couple options. Specifically, if I want to look at the core or course outline of record, we could open that up. Here I'll just keep the defaults. We'll go to report, and this gives me the official course outline of record. Okay, this could be very useful for when you're doing updates or looking at reference information. I think this might actually be a limited version of it. Let me go back one step, and we'll go through that filtering process again. I'm going to select none, and then we'll just choose the ones that I want. Okay, and let me go back here. I think there might be some defaults selected in here. Yeah, I think I just have, I was, for our CT advisory committee meeting, I wanted to get specific information out of my course outline, so I chose specific ones. So I'm just going to choose select all here, which should be the default. And then we'll go ahead and click go to report, and this should have a lot more information. It's more comprehensive. So again, if you're going through the curriculum update, looking up courses and see how they're set up could be very helpful, for all of these specific areas that you're going to be filling out. Okay, so here, if you wanted to save this as a PDF or something, you just go to print to PDF, and I'll just go ahead and print a copy of this to my desktop. Okay. Okay. Oh, I've already got a copy of it. Let's just replace it. That's fine. Okay. I'm going to go back. So you can see, you know, the library is very useful for just reference information. But again, it's pretty much read only at this point. Now, what we're interested in doing is updating our courses, or for some of you who are looking to maybe change your curriculum to have a CalGETC approved course, you might be creating a new course for that purpose. But here, you know, obviously there's no option to do anything like that. Even if I choose one of my courses here, again, let's go back to this. I'm going to go back to computer graphics. Oops. And if I choose one of these, there's no options here to update the course or create a new course or anything like that. Now that's where this first tab comes into play. So as a faculty member, all we're doing is just looking up course outlines, okay? But if I wanted to do any modifications, I'm going to need to change my role here to faculty author, okay? I've got a couple extra options here as a curriculum committee member. Yeah, so you're probably just going to have these two options. Now I could go under curriculum, and again, my dashboard already has the stuff that I have in my pipeline here. But under curriculum library, say you're coming in here and this is like the first thing you're doing in eLumen. All right, now we've got faculty author as our role. And this should be your department here, so that's important too. And then under the curriculum tab here, under curriculum library, we have all of our options here. Now, if I choose a course that's outside of my area, so administration of justice, so let's just choose criminal investigation. Now, I just get the same options here. I could read the course outline, but I can't really do anything with it, okay? So notice here when I don't have anything selected, though, I have the option to create a new course. So for those of you creating a course from scratch, you want to click on this. And so let me just go ahead and create a course here. Now in my other video, I've already kind of gone through this, but I wanted this to be a little bit more of a concise video. So we're going to click on New Course Workflow 2.0, and it should start the process. What it's going to do is give me a blank slate, okay? And this is just an empty course. There's literally nothing filled in for this course. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just fill in some options here. And right now we can't even save it, but we need to kind of like have like the bare minimum amount of information to be able to have this option available. We're not going to submit this until we're done writing the course, all right? So submitting just sends it up to the next level, which is the curriculum representative in your area. I'm one of them. There's actually going to be a total of 3 curriculum representatives. So yeah, so don't click submit until you're done with the course, okay? So for instance here, let's just kind of like computer graphics, and I'm going to put in a number, 299, test course. This is obviously going to be your course title, but I'm just going to put in this as a demo. You want to enter in a course description here. I'm just going to put in a placeholder here. This is a demo. Oops, okay. And what you want to do is, you know, select your top codes. There's an option here if you needed to kind of look some stuff up. You could actually click under our reference materials here, this information icon, and there's actually a wealth of documents here that you could use that should help you with the curriculum process. But you could also go through this as you need. Right now there's a taxonomy of programs top code manual. I could click on that, and you could actually look through this and see what different areas might fit. I already have this actually I think open, and it jumped to obviously my area of interest, which is multimedia. So I could use digital media, multimedia, electronic game design. but there's definitely, the whole range of different options that you can look up. All right, so this should already be filled in if you're doing a course update, but right now I'm just going through like a new course, so let's just look in, and I'm just gonna put in digital media. All right. Okay, and this actually pre-populates, but I think, if you wanted to get into specifics, you could do that. I believe if you look up like zip codes, okay, you could look up, and I guess let's try one of these. Okay. Well, try this one. Let's see if this is the right one. Okay. I think, yeah, this looks like the right one. If we choose in digital media, let's like do a search, and there's options that we could choose: digital large, digital communication. So let's go in here and see in our workflow here if I'm able to find what I'm looking for without like taking too long here. We're getting into computers, computer science. Hopefully I'll catch it as I pass it. Okay, well, I'm gonna try going under 10, which is this like number here, and I think we're here. 10. Here's pre-press, here's animation, graphics, and printing. And I think this might work okay, but possibly we could choose this one as well. But anyway, for you creating a new course, you might want to consider if there are any more specific things. Okay. Now you'll notice that here we could already save it as a draft. So if I don't want to enter in anything else right now, I could do that. SAM codes are also kind of relevant if you're a CTE course. So here we have possibly occupational, clearly occupational, advanced occupational, or apprenticeship. I think in the past there was actually a not occupational option here, but if you're a CTE course, it's obviously needing to be occupational. So the safe bet would be to choose possibly occupational. If you're a non-CTE course, then I don't know if there's an option to have non-occupational, but anyway, possibly occupational is the safest bet. And then clearly occupational, advanced occupational will ramp up based off of the relevance, in terms of practical application of the content of your courses in a work environment. Okay, and apprenticeship I think is the ultimate, it's basically like a agreement with an employer to train their employee in your class. Okay. Some important things to note here are also start date for your proposed course. At this point, if you submit before September, our deadline is September of 2024. Our deadline will be met to get your course in for fall of 2025. This is actually very important if you're doing a CalGETC course. And here, if you're doing a new course or a mandatory revision, those are two distinctions here. In this case, it's going to be a new course. Okay, so I'm just going to save as draft. Takes a little while, but hopefully it'll go through. Okay, once it's through, it should be listed in your dashboard. Okay, so when I go to my dashboard now, we'll see that I've got under proposal courses, I've got my computer graphics 299. Note that I have a couple other courses that I'm going to be proposing as new courses for our computer graphics curriculum as well. But it's just listed there. If I wanted to go back and modify it, we could just go under Actions, View Workflow, and here we go, and now I have this first tab here. Unfortunately, it's not just this that we have to fill out. We've got a whole bunch of other tabs. Depending on your preference, having it in tabs can actually be nicer because it's a little bit, easier to digest. You've just got these different sections that you need to go through. So here we have like course coding, and in this option, like I would definitely recommend looking at, existing course outlines, a record. So under my CD 225, you could actually start looking at stuff under course coding and just kind of see what's like marked there. Okay. And just see if you're trying to follow a specific model, then that'll just be nice to have some reference to work off of. Okay, so this is all just blank. I'm not going to go through everything here because it's, I don't want to have to fill out everything from scratch. What I will do is maybe open up one of my course revisions so that we can kind of go through these with some information existing, so we can kind of see what's going on. Okay, so yeah, once you create like a new course, the task is just getting through all of these tabs, filling them out, and getting them submitted. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit more about CalGetsy as I cover some of these sections. Okay, I'm going to just choose Save as Draft. If I wanted to delete it, I could just delete that here too. Now notice that what I'm doing here, everything that's in on my dashboard, these are all just instances of courses that I've copied, okay, or I'm working on. Okay, these have nothing to do with the official registered course outline of records, so whatever I change in here is not changing the official record. Okay, if we go back to the library and I go back to one of my courses in computer graphics, and if I select this, now we'll see that we also have a couple new options here. New revision. So this is if you're going to be updating your courses. Now for APH, we are next in line to kind of update our curriculum under our new school structure, because we're at the front of the alphabet right after ag. Like, it's our turn to update our curriculum. So I'm hoping that we're all just going to be able to go through all of our courses, submit them in a timely manner, get them in. And not just for CalGetsy, but just for us in general, just to kind of have this nice review, make sure that we're where we want to be. It's a really good opportunity. Like, you might think of curriculum as a chore, and it's like, why do I have to do this? But it's actually really important. And it can be fun to think about, like, all right, let's look at our courses. Let's take this chance to look at our courses starting at a high level. And then we're going to start, going through each of them and seeing if they are where they need to be. So for computer graphics, for example, a lot of our courses are very outdated, and so this is our chance to kind of make them current, right? And make the language reflect current standards. Okay, so in this case, we could create new revisions for whatever courses we want. Because I'm trying to push through like all of our courses through curriculum, I've actually created an instance for every single one of these guys. Okay, so that's what I'm kind of working on currently. Now, another thing to consider, maybe even before you submit any of these for revision, is to think about your department at the program level. So programs are essentially the awards that are being offered in your area, the certificates, the degrees, the skills and recognitions or skills recognitions, all of these different options are the programs. Okay, so if you want to reconsider your programs, what you want to do is click on, under the program option here, and now we can look up programs specifically to our area. So here, computer graphics has a couple things. Okay, so if I select one of these, we can revise it. Or if I want to create a new program altogether, I don't select any of these and just click new program. Okay, so programs are also an option. And for computer graphics, we're also doing a revision of our programs. So like I said, it's really a nice opportunity to just think about your department overall and see if everything fits. And maybe you might want to consider inactivating a course, creating a new course, just making sure that in terms of the vision that you have for your department, everything is in line, right? And once you have that vision kind of established, then the programs should kind of fall into place. And then within those programs, each of your individual courses will also have that guiding principle to aid in its revision or, new creation. All right, so once you have those revisions and new courses lined up as workflows, now when you go to your curriculum dashboard, they should be listed here. Okay, so here I've got, all my courses listed. And, again, note that these are just instances that are just on your own dashboard. They don't really influence the official course outlines or programs until you submit it into the curriculum process, and then it goes through several layers of approval and then all the way up to final approval, and then it gets registered as the new formal document, right? So what you do here, don't worry, you're not messing up anything. You're just kind of doing stuff on your own in your own local space. Okay, so let's go in here. I'm going to select a course that I'm a little bit more familiar with, just Computer Graphics 225. To enter your workflow, what you want to do is click under Actions, and we'll choose View Workflow. Okay, so so here we go. So this is where everything happens, and just like I showed you before, we have some things to kind of fill out here. Notice that there's some things going on here. I've made some changes tentatively, and so they're actually showing here in these colored outline boxes. So I modified the course description, modified zip codes, top codes, and we'll see if I need to change these before I submit. But that's kind of a nice feature that'll show you what you've changed so far. Okay, so in this first tab, we talked about top codes, zip codes, and SAM codes. What we want to do now, I want to address course descriptions. Now, just like in my other kind of eLumen video, I noted that we all have different writing styles, and potentially for every author that writes our courses, it could be written in a totally different voice, and there could just be a whole range of different approaches and ways to articulate course content. Now, in order to try to make this a little bit more consistent and therefore more effective, I'm going to kind of refer to a reference that Letitia Seneschal created a few years ago, submitted to curriculum representatives, and I should have it open here. And you can kind of see the goal here is to kind of reduce extraneous verbiage. All right, so the rationale is up here. We've kind of drifted away from established styles. This was in 2017, but I think it still can apply at any time. Some courses use unnecessary verbiage, creating a catalog that is stylistically inconsistent for students, and consistency improves usability. Now, obviously, when students are reading stuff, they don't want to be reading totally different voices for every single course, although that might be interesting in theory. I think in practice, you want something that's consistent and very functional, right? Essentially, the goal here is to kind of just leave what's essential, and remove stuff that's not needed. Okay, so what we're looking for is concise statements of content. So here's an example of a draft open to businesses and non-business majors. This course provides an overview of basic business calculations. Students will learn how to calculate markups and markdowns, payments, interest, loans, as well as basic financial ratios and how to read financial statements. Now, the concise version of this is to remove stuff that's obvious. Okay, so here, this one, open to both business and non-business majors, and yeah, the both is not really needed. But there's going to be a lot of this type of stuff. This course provides an overview of basic business calculations. Now, this is just really, if everybody wrote this, it would be just such a waste of words in our catalog, right? Every single course says this course provides this course provides that. totally don't need that. Just go straight to the point. Overview of basic business calculations. Also, there's a lot of this, as curriculum rep, I've seen a lot of descriptions say students will learn how to ... right? So totally not needed. Just get straight to calculation of markups and markdowns, right? So all of these things that are obvious. Yes, this is a course. Yes, students are supposed to learn this. Yes, this course is going to provide that. It's in the course description. Just remove all that stuff. Make it nice and concise. Now, we could still, I think, write in our own voices, but I think this type of stuff, it's pretty obvious that it's not needed, and just kind of try to edit your descriptions down so it gets right straight to the point. Okay, even stuff like this, and how to read financial statements. Just say and reading of financial statements. Okay, so yeah, just a little note that I think might help us unify our messaging in our course descriptions. Now, I will say that with CalGETC, interested parties here, this is super important for you to kind of make sure that you provide a correct description. And if you attended our CalGETC workshop way back in March, you'll know that the writing is everything. The writing can make a difference between approval or rejection. And so you want to make sure that you touch on the important points. Now, for CalGETC, remember, for APH, we are interested in subject area 3. Okay, and if you look up the CalGETC standards, which should be available online, so subject area 3 is arts and humanities. And just a quick note: courses that fulfill the arts requirement. This is actually listed in the standards. I'm going to read this really quick. Well, maybe I'll just read the first sentence. Courses that have as their major emphasis the integration of history, theory, aesthetics, and criticism. Okay, and then performance and studio classes may be credited towards satisfaction of this subject area if their major emphasis is on the integration of history, theory, and criticism. Okay, so courses that do not fulfill the arts requirement are courses which focus on technique, skills, or performance. And so, for example, courses in beginning drawing, beginning painting, readers theater, oral interpretation courses focusing primarily on performance and or skills building. So that is unfortunately a lot of our course content. And so some of us, including computer graphics, are looking to create a course that's specifically designed with a theory emphasis so that we can actually get that CalGETC standard course within our curriculum. Okay, so just think about that. We're focusing on history, theory, aesthetics, and criticism. Okay, and again, this is a prime opportunity to incorporate that. Now, Computer Graphics 225 is not going to be fitting the CalGETC standard, so I'm not using this as an example, but think about that if you really are aiming for that. Okay, so right now the start date is going to be fall of 2025. If you miss the September ish deadline, it'll probably be pushed back to the following year. Okay, so if you're trying to get something in for CalGETC, we're gonna try to get something in by August. I think that would be the best option for you. Okay, because there's gonna be this backlog of courses because everybody's trying to get in for CalGETC, and so the sooner you could get it in, and making sure that everything's correct and stuff, the better. Okay, all right. So just a couple notes. Discipline. This refers to the level of education that teachers for this course need to have, the required level of education. So in this case, our instructors need to have a bachelor's in multimedia. Okay. So yeah, some of you guys possibly might need a higher level, a master's level instructor, but this is where you can define that. At first, it's a little bit hard. If you've never worked in curriculum, you might not know what this means. Disciplines, I think it actually could be retitled to be a little bit more clear. But basically, this is talking about instructors and what the expected or the minimum required level of education they need to have is. Okay, if you wanted to add additional reviewers or authors, this is where you would do this. Okay. All right, let's move on to the next tab. All right, course coding, grading, whether you want to, like, as far as like whether you want pass, not pass, grading. Associated programs are the awards. Remember, we talked about programs a little bit earlier. This is where, this course is going to be focused. So if you're already designing a program, and or you have a program existing that has this course, it'll be listed here. So whatever awards, whether it's certificates or degrees that this course is featured in, it will be listed here. It's kind of cool to see, how far reaching your courses are within your program, or maybe even beyond your program. Okay, general ed options, you want to think about this. Now, the important thing here, again, if you're interested in CalGETC, this is how you would apply for CalGETC. You just click on add request for general education, and then you could choose your CalGETC standard here. Okay. All right, categories, we're going to be Area 3A arts, right? Okay. So, yeah, anyway, that's how you would kind of list as in terms of like, I'm proposing this course for CalGETC standards. This is where it's going to go. I'm going to remove that. Because a lot of our general ed, like as far as computer graphics, we don't necessarily have too much general ed like articulation. We have this listed as Y, but I think there's other options that you could choose as well for general ed applicability. Now down here, I think because we're going through the whole CalGETC thing, this might be a little bit nebulous, but I think it's always good practice to be, if you have courses that you feel that this could articulate with, like one-to-one articulation, then just put them down here. Okay. So here, you just list the school, you list the catalog year, so hopefully you're able to find the course in a relevant year, and then you list like the course code, the subject and the number, as well as the title, and that's pretty much it. And if you already have existing like course-to-course articulation, then you can indicate that here, but these are just new proposals that I just put in. Okay. Units, this should be pretty straightforward as far as like the lecture hours, laboratory hours. Note that the activity hours is kind of a new thing too. This has like 2 in-class hours and 1 out-of-class hour versus a lecture, which is 1 in-class hour and 2 out-of-class hours, and then laboratory is all 3 in-class hours. So the activity hour might be something to consider if you feel that it's a better fit for your course. But bear in mind, if you're going to use that, it might have a bearing in terms of course-to-course articulation, because maybe the UCs or the CSUs might not necessarily be adopting activity hours as readily. So just kind of think about that. If you're not interested or that doesn't matter to you, then consider the activity hour. Okay, but what you enter in here should kind of automatically populate down here. All right. Okay, prereqs. Right now we just have our advisory here, but if you wanted to kind of like change this to like a prerequisite or co-requisite, you can do that here. Okay. Limitations on enrollment are available here as well. Okay. All right. Okay, methods of instruction. All right, so these are your typical kind of like teaching methods, what types of formats you might use to kind of like communicate the material to your students, whether they're lectures, demonstrations, video tutorials. So whatever options or potential like platforms you might use to convey your message and teach the class. Okay, now assignments are going to be more specific. There's 2 different sections here that we want to address. Okay, evidence of workload, which are essentially quantitative. So this is just kind of proving that there's enough like rigor in the course, and how are your assignments, or how is the workload going to be delivered. All right, so you might have discussions, you might have like projects, you might have presentations, and it might have, in this case, a final project. All of these demonstrate that, yeah, there's going to be enough stuff for the students to do to, justify this being a certain number of units, right? So this is just kind of like, saying, well, what kind of work are the students going to do? What's their workload going to consist of? Now, the second part is evidence of critical thinking, which is qualitative. Now what you want to put here is just an example of a problem that your students might be doing, an essay prompt, a project that they might need to do. This is just demonstrating the rigor of the course. So giving give very specific examples based off of like actual assignments. Okay, so choose some representative examples here. All right, so in this particular area, and maybe up here a little bit too, but this is also another opportunity to kind of like put in Calgetsi, language, especially the second one. What types of representative problems are you going to be doing? So most likely, if it's going to be focusing on history, theory, aesthetics, and criticism, you'll probably be having an essay prompt, right? And specifically addressing maybe one of those areas. Now, if I were, for example, we're trying to put together a history of animation course, which is talking about, historical development of the medium through the ages. So you might put together some problems that address maybe aesthetics, like what are the specific different styles of animation that have evolved in a certain era, right? Or history, like maybe explain the golden era of Disney animation and how does it contrast with the Disney Renaissance, right? So things like that. Okay, so but anyway, this particular formatting is actually very specific. If you're working with like a new course, this is going to be empty. So what you want to do is actually create this, these titles here exactly. Use the bold and underline. And here we want the kind of like numbered list here. So this is not like just come up with something and put it there. It is very like specific, and all courses are kind of like adhering to this particular standard. So if I open up my Computer Graphics 225 again, we'll see that under that area, we could see that same formatting right there, right? So yeah, use this exact wording and formatting, bold, underline, and then list your options there. Okay. All right. So here, methods of evaluation. This is essentially like testing, like formative evaluation. As you go, how are you checking like that they're they're learning at the level that they need to? So in this case, weekly critiques, periodic reviews of students, weekly reviews of laboratory performance, periodic tests throughout the semester, and then summative evaluation is at the very end. How do you know that they learned everything that they needed to learn? In this case, we just have one final practical project. Okay. Down here we have textbooks. This is also really important because this is typically one of the areas that will probably need to be changed if you're doing a periodic update, because your textbooks after maybe a 5-year period are probably going to be outdated. So make sure you update with a current representative textbook for your area. Now, just because the textbook is listed here does not mean that you have to use this book to teach the course. In our courses, computer graphics courses, most of the content is delivered by instructor created content. But it's good to have a reference textbook listed here as an example of what you could use to teach the course. Okay, so this Computer Graphics 225 is a 3D modeling course, so the Maya guide would be a good place to start. But just make sure that your textbook references are within the last 5 years to be current. Sometimes you have like staples of your discipline that have been around for decades maybe, and they are like the standard that that will stand the test of time moving forward as well, and those might be like considered classics. In that case here, you could still list it, but down at the bottom what you want to do is click on this option here. Are any of these considered classics? Click yes, and just put the justification here. Like you could say this textbook is the standard that's been used for decades. Or you could also say if there's been no later editions of this, you could say this was the last published edition of this particular book. Okay. Materials fees, you can add them here as well. Okay, learning outcomes. We're getting into some very important stuff that's very specific to your courses here. These are the individual goals that you want your students to be achieving as they're going through your course. These are very, specific individual, skills and goals that they're going to be learning as, throughout the semester. Okay, so yeah, so make sure you have enough here. We've seen courses go through curriculum that just have like maybe 3 or 4, and I would say that's really kind of light. This is your opportunity to really show that this is going to be a robust course, and the students are really going to be learning what they need to learn. And also, this is another way to justify the units for your course, right? If you have a 1-unit course, you probably don't need that many. But if you have a 3-unit course, I would just expect, you got to have a nice size. Now, in this case, I would say you also don't want to just put in every single possible thing in there. Make your listings count. Okay, so make sure they're important and they're relevant enough to elicit having, being listed as one of the objectives. Okay, so try to kind of find a nice balance between not putting too much, but not putting too little either. Okay, so I know that's vague, but I think you get the idea. Make sure that it really truly represents the content that you're going to be teaching. If you have a lab, element to your course, make sure you also put in lab objectives as well. Okay, down here the CSLOs are higher level, objectives. And unlike these, which are, I would say, like more granular, these are kind of like overarching. What are the main things, what are the main takeaways that you want from this course? And they should actually kind of like encapsulate a lot of what's going on here. Okay, so this is a modeling course, so there might be different kinds of modeling, but here this might be, use custom 3D modeling, sculpting, and material tools to create a character, right? So this kind of encapsulates a lot of these specific individual goals into one major goal. Okay, so anyway, think about the overarching goals, but also think about those individual specific skills that you want the students to learn. Okay, moving right along. Okay, also, one thing to note, again, for CalGETC standards, this is very important. Focus your goals on those specific areas of emphasis, history, theory, aesthetics, and criticism. Okay. Okay, content. This is essentially, the specific kind of like a outline for your course. I know this is overall the course outline of record, but this is, just like an actual outline of the content, the topics that you're going to be covering in your course. Like before, you don't want this to be like too verbose. Like you don't want this to be like 10 pages long. Don't put in every single little detail. Try to be concise and representative, because in honesty, like the people who are reviewing this course, a lot of them are not going to be subject matter experts in your particular area, and so it's already going to be very kind of like foreign to some people, and so you don't need to go into like super fine detail, but it does need to be representative of your course content. Like somebody who's picking up your course outline of record, who's new to the course, who's potentially teaching it for the first time, should be able to get a really good idea of what they need to teach without being like micromanaged. Okay, so hit on the main topics. I would say, here you have your first level, but then maybe go down one level. Sometimes you might go down another level, but most of the time you probably shouldn't need to. Just like go in there, keep it concise and representative, and make sure it works. Now, if you have a lab area, you could have specific, topics listed under the lab as well. Sometimes it's just more practical when you need them to achieve these certain things within the laboratory. For computer graphics, what we do is just like usually just take our lecture content and we say lecture content is applied in the lab setting. We just like relist it. So all of these topics are still relevant. They just might be, kind of like implemented a little bit differently in the lab. So that works for us. I don't think that's necessarily the best practice for everyone, but that I would say is an option. Okay. Again, very important for CalGETC. All right, you'll see that there are specific areas within the course outline of record that are super important if you're trying to get that standard approved. So make sure this fits. Don't have like, studio course stuff in here where people are like, doing practical exercise and stuff. Really focus on the theory and maybe writing and reflection, criticism, all those different things. Those are more applicable. Like here, this is our practical stuff: lighting, rigging, animation fundamentals, character creation. Like that's totally not going to fit for CalGETC. So if you're looking for a CalGETC class, think about the content here as well. Okay, we're nearing the end. Distance education is kind of the last major thing that we really need to worry about. Okay, so some of you, it might have been a while since you filled out one of these. We've actually changed this to Addendum 2.0. I think there's actually going to be a new revision coming up soon, so this might even be different when you guys go through it. But I think if we're doing this over the summer before the September deadline, it'll probably still be this. The important thing to note here, okay, the first question is like, is this being proposed for DE? And I would say maybe some classes are not, but for us, we definitely, like, all of our computer graphics classes are need to be approved for DE just in case. And the difference here is you need to be aware of the different modalities. This might be a little bit cumbersome because in the past it would just be like online or hybrid. That's it, right? And now we have to kind of specify the different kinds of modalities that we're going to be using. And for those of you who are a little bit, confused or don't really know exactly what that means, if we go under the reference information icon, there's actually a DE modality document here. Now if I open that up, this gives a nice definition of each of these things. On campus is in person, so traditional classes. HyFlex, this is kind of like a live streaming lecture, so you're still going to have lectures each week in person, but at the same time there are certain classrooms that are equipped to be able to video the class and have it like stream online as well. So you have students being given the option of either watching it online or watching it in person. But the other kind of types of like online or distance education modalities are online. So we have online live, which is synchronous. This means that, for instance, if you're doing like Zoom classes and, there are certain parts that are live on Zoom. Okay, online anytime, which is asynchronous, is just basically pre-recorded videos or just everything is just presented in a modular format that doesn't have a live element to it. Okay, all of these are all online distance learning. Now hybrid courses means that there's actually an in-person element as well as an online element. Okay, so hybrid live, this takes place partially on campus, so you have a live in-person lecture, for instance, and then online, partially online live. It doesn't necessarily, like for this, I guess, that's okay. So hybrid live, that means that there's in-person as well as online live. So I guess that's very specific. I think more what fits in a more traditionally hybrid format is hybrid anytime, where you have like an in-person live element, and then the online part is asynchronous. So you might have like content that people need to look up online later whenever they can. Okay, so pretty specific, elements here. I guess if you still wanted to maintain the live element at all times, the hybrid live just says part of it's going to be in person, part of it's going to be on Zoom, something like that. Okay, so here's some examples. So the hybrid live, let's just say this course meets mainly online live and Zoom, and however it also has 4 required on-campus exams. Okay, so that makes sense. Maybe it's a Zoom class that has an in-person exam element to kind of avoid the whole like using online resources to be able to like kind of cheat on your test or something, right? So anyway, this document hopefully clarifies what the modalities are. but it's there in the information reference materials icon here. Okay, so for this course, for instance, I've selected hybrid live, hybrid anytime, online anytime, and high flex. These last two options here are ECO, emergency conditions only. So my thinking is that if I've already got online live, online anytime, for all conditions, then I don't need to check these. Okay, so I view this as I want to have the option for any of my courses to be able to be given in any of these modalities. So you never know what's going to happen, or maybe some of your instructors, might be going through certain, situations that require them to be able to do this online. So it's good to have this in place. Okay. Now, the cumbersome part is this: for each of these modalities, you're going to have to put in a couple of different things. One is describe how the methods of instruction are going to meet the course learning outcomes. Two, we have to describe how it's accessible. Okay. All right. So we can kind of see also for each of these, we have to click on the different, formats that we're going to be using in this particular modality. Okay. Here I have most of these selected because I want them all as options. Okay. To be able to teach. All right. So for each of these modalities you select, you're going to have to go through the methods of instruction and how the methods allow students to meet the course learning outcomes, and then the accessibility. For the accessibility, we actually have, if you go back up here again, there's some sample responses for the accessibility question, which is nice. These are nice general statements to place in there. If you want to make it very specific to your course, then you can modify these. These are a good starting point. Okay, so consider that a resource that you should look into. Okay. Yeah, it's a little bit cumbersome, but I think you'll find that some of these responses can actually coincide. To save time, you could kind of think you could write a response that's in general going to kind of fit across multiple modalities, and you could reuse that response. Okay, because most of them are going to have an online element, and the course contents should be the same. So you're just talking about how it's going to be delivered. The accessibility is also going to be very similar too. So think about reusing what you can across each of these, unless you really feel like writing an individual one for each modality. Okay. All right. And then at the end, you have some talking about regular substantive interaction. This was previously regular and effective contact, I think. So yeah, just a new name for something that we've already worked with before. But you want to choose different kind of options that, one, how the students are going to interact with each other, and then two, how is the professor or faculty going to interact with students. And I just have social media unchecked because I don't want that as part of our courses. Okay, so if you don't have a DE addendum in your past course outline, you need to kind of put it in this time around. All right, if you intend on being able to offer online options. Okay. This last checkoff list is the final thing here. What we want to do is this is related to the course program and course approval handbook, which is kind of one of the staples of curriculum. It's available here towards the bottom, the Pakai 8th edition. But this is kind of referring to specific development criteria. You should be able to say yes here. And then library resources, do you need to use library resources for this? In this case, I would say no, right? Okay, so yeah, and just kind of go through this checklist. Do you have any special concerns or needs? Have you included documentation? So one thing to note, if you're going to be, for instance, I guess this next one is offering this, but do you have necessary documentation, cover info, advisory committee meeting minutes, which might be important as well, CID descriptors. So if this is a new course, have you attached the completed class capacity form? I will touch base on that really quickly. If we go in here, back into our reference materials, the class capacity form is right here. This is something you need to submit if you're creating a new course. Okay, you just list your course here under MJC, and you put the number of maximum number of students that you want for your to be the cap for your course. And the tricky thing here is that you can't just sign this and just submit it. You actually have to have your administrator sign it, but you also have to have a colleague from Columbia and the administrator over there sign it as well. That's the difficult part. Okay, so maybe if there's a commensurate department over there that could also, agree to this cap for your course. So yeah, that's just kind of a hurdle that you have to go through, and you have to provide rationale. Why is this the number? Could be a limitation on, there's different descriptors here at the top as far as why, you want to think about mandates, like this is specifically stated within regulation, or safety considerations. Maybe you're running a lab and you cannot safely manage more than a certain number of students, but pedagogy is probably going to be the most important thing. Are you effectively able to manage the class, to provide feedback, to authentically assess the students' work? Things like that will come into play for sure. Okay, but you want to put that in your rationale. Okay. So include that course, or include that form if you're going to be creating a new course. And yeah, so that's kind of it. You wrap everything up here, finish this checklist. You're requesting DE, and if you are, did you complete DE Addendum 2? Yes. Are you requesting transferability? Have you completed comparable courses? This is like that course-to-course articulation that we had in the beginning. And so yeah, once you're finished with this, this is for official administrative purposes, so we don't have to touch this. In the end, once you have everything ready to go, here I'm able to submit this course because I have all the fields that are required filled out. I think I still have a couple things that I need to add here, but once you're done, you click submit. What happens is it goes to the curriculum representative level, so I would have a look at it. I'm going to be on sabbatical this coming year, so it might not be me this coming year. Maybe if it's over the summer, I might still have a look at some of the submissions or help out, because our curriculum reps coming in will all be relatively new, I think. But it'll go to the curriculum representative level, and expect some kind of back and forth here, because we really want to make sure things are good from the start. Because if we don't submit something that's going to be a certain level of excellence, then it's just going to be kind of sent back, and it's just going to be really kind of this inefficient process. So we want to just make sure that we put in good material from the start. Once the curriculum representative approves it, it goes up to the dean level, so Rob's going to have a look at it. And then once Rob approves it, it'll go up to tech review, which is kind of the curriculum committee administrators are going to look through things, and they're already going to look through it very precisely, and they're probably already going to catch most of the things. But then it goes to the curriculum committee, and now all of the curriculum committee members are going to be needing to look over this submission. All right, so there's lots of different levels to this process of approval. That's to ensure that we have high standards of quality, that there's no mistakes, and that it really kind of captures what needs to be represented in the course. Okay, and then from there it gets submitted up to the higher levels, and once it gets state approval, ultimately we're able to kind of switch out our officially registered core with the one that was submitted, and offer this course in its new its new I guess iteration, right? And so so that's kind of how it works. So eLumen is, I would consider it's actually really straightforward. I find it fine to work with, and so I would say dispel all of these preconceptions that you might have about eLumen. It's not that hard. I think to begin with, the main thing you need to know is to make sure that your role up here is correct. As faculty, you can read stuff, but you cannot change anything. Oh, and I just changed my role to faculty, and I was working on a workflow just then. I don't think I could back to it I think it's going to be lost. So make sure, oh, I guess, I don't know if my changes are still in here, but make sure you save as draft often. This is something that we learn, and we teach right from the start in computer graphics, because things happen, and all of your changes, once you've lost them one time, like, you'll know, oh man, I have to save like every little change you do, like even if it's just changing one of these blocks at a time, like save it, continue to just save. That way you'll always like be up to date, and you won't miss anything. Like, just that thing where I'm just changing to faculty, that could have like possibly lost all of my changes that I made, right? So, but anyway, as a faculty like role, like you could see and look up all of the course outlines of record that are in the library, but you can't really change anything. Okay, if I go to my workflows, these are all things that are in my pipeline here, but if I go here and I go and do one of these views, I can't save draft or anything like that. This is only like read only now. Okay, so yeah, like to be able to write or to change the content, you need to change your role to faculty author. Okay, and that could be the thing that trips up a lot of people at first. It's just a simple little like choice here that'll change your ability to modify things. Okay, so make sure you're as faculty author. First step is to just get all of your courses that you want to change into like their own workflows, and once you've got the workflows going, you could just start working away at them. Now, I've been kind of like showing you guys stuff in step view. That's where you have the tabs and you're going through one section at a time. But I will say that my favorite mode of working is outline view, because what it does is it shows every single thing in this like individual scrolling list. So I have everything from top to bottom here. Now this could be a little bit daunting if you don't want to see everything at once, but since I've been on curriculum committee for a while now, and I kind of don't like clicking from tab to tab to tab. Sometimes I might forget where something is listed in a section, and I don't like guessing which tab it's in. I prefer to just scroll and see if I can find it. So I prefer the outline view, even though it's just like a long scroll. I just like having everything in one place. So it's up to you. You could choose either one. Okay. But yeah, hopefully this helped. I know this is a little bit of a longer video, but I just wanted to make sure that you guys are all on the same page, and then we could actually start curriculum together. Now, hopefully you guys go through this, get your workflow started, maybe get some work done. What Ram and I are intending are to maybe have a follow-up Zoom workshop, so that maybe if there are any other questions that can be asked, you have the opportunity to do so. And then we could just kind of do some, troubleshooting and just making sure that you guys are able to kind of move forward. Okay. But that's it for now. Thanks for making it to the end, and we'll talk to you soon. All right. Thanks, guys.